Hey there folks, Rel here. In the background you'll see some PlanetSide 2 gameplay as I share some thoughts on better gaming. And today I wanted to ask, what is fun anymore? And this is obviously a topic that I like talking about because I think it's completely relevant in this time of constant change. I did a few other videos that were something along the same lines, but they had different angles, and you should check those out in the description below if you're interested. It's really old stuff, it's hard for me to listen to without cringing, but feel free to explore that. This video is also going to start out as one thing and then kind of morph into a more specific discussion towards the end, so just fair warning there. So when I ask, what is fun anymore? I feel like the definition of fun has sort of shifted and expanded. There's basically more avenues to explore, but at the same time the skill floor for this sort of new fun has been raised, and it's especially difficult to achieve in a game like PlanetSide 2. And to backtrack a little bit, Total Biscuit sent out a tweet, and it ultimately inspired this episode. In it he says, "Apparently I have barely played PlanetSide 2 since release because I am a sellout. Steam believes otherwise." I'm sure people were generally being douchewads to him, as people tend to do over the internet, which is what sparked that. And by the way, that line of thought is completely wrong. If you happen to sit through the September Q&A with Total Biscuit, anyone who's paying attention can tell how much he loves his fans, his games, and his competitive team, you know, the one that he sponsors. Unless you're completely oblivious, then good luck in life as you painstakingly walk through it blind. But what I find more interesting is that this little bit in the middle of the screen, Steve says that he played for 6 hours and that he was and still is baffled by it. He feels like PlanetSide 2 is really pointless, which Total Biscuit later responds that all games are pointless. If you need arbitrary goals to figure out how to have fun, then you may have a problem. So think about that. If you need arbitrary goals to figure out how to have fun, then you may have a problem. At the bottom I ask a question which never received an answer, but back in the Tribes and even PlanetSide 1 days, there was no progression system, right? At least to my knowledge. I know Tribes didn't have one, but I never really played much of the original PlanetSide. There was no progression. You connected to a server, you started a match, and you either won or you lost. The progression in the game was that you had a chance to get better, to compete against new players in different situations, and the gameplay is what made the game fun. Same thing with Command & Conquer Red Alert. You'd connect to the other guy with your 56k modem, and you'd play a match, you'd win or you'd lose, and then you'd do it again, because it was fun. Good gameplay, especially versus a human opponent, was engrossing because it wasn't commonplace. There wasn't thousands of different mainstream titles out there just begging you to play them. Nowadays though, good gameplay is practically a requirement for a game to be successful. Good gameplay is an element of what makes a game fun, but is no longer the only thing that makes a game fun. It can't be, not for this generation of gamers. It's just another layer. And getting back to what Total Biscuit said, if you need arbitrary goals to figure out how to have fun, then you may have a problem. But I think the real problem I think Total Biscuit was glancing over isn't really a problem at all. It's a culture shift. How many people have you seen just playing Super Mario Brothers for the heck of it, opposed to how many you've seen doing speed runs in Super Mario Brothers? The sort of creation of fun is what Total Biscuit is actually referring to being able to play a game in a way that you find enjoyable. But that's also the mentality of an older gamer. A mentality that I understand and even share to a degree, but it's also a mentality that does not mesh with the new gaming culture. The people who do speedruns of Super Mario Brothers, they're likely the ones that are streaming it on twitch.tv for others to watch. Being able to share and show off what you've done, what you're doing, that's an element of the new fun that we're seeing more and more. Those same people aren't going to be sitting in their rooms just speedrunning through games for the heck of it, unless they're practicing for a competition or practicing so that they can showcase it on Twitch. It's the same reason that achievements are just flooding games today, because in some small way, we can feel as if we earned something. Not only that, but we can also show everyone exactly what we've earned. Cosmetic items are flooding our games as well. It's not fun by definition, but you don't want to just look cool for yourself, especially in a first-person shooter. You want other people to see how cool you look. This is just chrome, it's shiny polish that doesn't really address the underlying goal. And we're being spoon-fed loads of AAA titles per year. What's to stop us from leaving one game to go play another? All the people heading to Battlefield 4 over PlanetSide 2 is a pretty good example of this. It's new, it's different, let's play it. I feel like the make or break for what makes games fun today, the thing that's needed to retain your audience in the long run, and honestly, I think the problem where some designers, including SOE, are just getting it wrong, is that they're missing that feeling of accomplishment. Just like good gameplay is so commonplace that it's become a requirement, the new fun ranks meaningful accomplishment along the same lines. It's no longer just an option that can be trumped by good gameplay. So no matter what game you're playing, there's a feeling of accomplishment that needs to be there, and this is a lesson as old as gaming itself. In Command & Conquer, Call of Duty, Tribes, Tetris, Final Fantasy VII, World of Warcraft, or Candy Crush, it's the same thing. You start a match, a battle, a round, a quest, whatever, and you either win or you lose. When people are saying on the forums or on Reddit or even in the Twitter comment that you saw earlier, when people say that it doesn't feel like there's a point to PlanetSide 2, there's no meaning, there's no purpose, whether it's because of the perpetual war or the constant flip-flopping of territory or whatever their explanation is at the time, the reason that they are feeling these things is because there is no sense of meaningful accomplishment. This is something that most games do very well, including the earlier examples that I just mentioned. In Final Fantasy VII, you find the secret materia that you can equip on your character, or you have that random encounter that levels you up and makes you stronger so that you can finally beat the boss that you were struggling with. In Call of Duty, you win a round, you lose a round, either way, you can say you did your part, or at least you could feel like you did your part, if you show up at the top of the leaderboard. In World of Warcraft, you can finish that quest, you can get that new piece of armor, or learn more about the story as it unfolds. And in Tetris and Candy Crush, you can nab that high score, and then show off to your friends. PlanetSide 2 doesn't have that, at least not really. You can attack a base, you can defend a base, you can win a base, you can lose a base, and the only time that these victories actually feel meaningful is when they were hard-fought battles. Right? Usually a long standstill, and then one side finally makes a right call and executes the other faction. Those are the fights where you feel that proper sense of accomplishment, that achievement, that purpose, and that meaning. But most of the time this isn't the case. You're either going to slowly win or slowly lose. You capture 2 out of 3 points, then you sit there and farm. You capture 3 out of 3 points, then you sit there and farm the spawn rooms. It's a war of attrition, a pointless war. Yeah, you may get that little sign up at the top of the screen that says you successfully defended your facility. Maybe you get some bonus certs for doing it, but is that a victory, really? I mean, did you participate? Did you feel like you worked hard and had an impact? Do you feel like you deserve that message? Probably not. And granted, I'm talking about that feeling, and feeling is always a subjective thing, especially versus players who are new to the game and players who have a lot of time spent. There's very drastic differences there. The difference is that players who are still new to the game find things shiny and fresh. They're still in the honeymoon stages of the game, and we all know that the girl or the guy you think you love may turn out to be a clingy emotional wreck with stalking tendencies a few months down the road. At Gamescom in 2006, MC Chris did a pretty funny rant about Kingdom Hearts 2 and Resident Evil 4, and there's a link in the description below if you want to watch it, and I really suggest you do. It's really, really funny. But he was basically ranting about how long it took you to get to the fun part of the game. Juxtapose that with Resident Evil 4, where you're constantly and instantly in the action at any given moment. PlanetSide 2 falls somewhere in between. In Resident Evil, you're fighting moment to moment, but you're working toward an objective. You're completing a mission, you're progressing the story. In Kingdom Hearts and in most RPGs, you're grinding out enemies so that you can fight those nice boss battles or see those cutscenes or progress the story. Both of them are fun, moment to moment, thanks to the gameplay. PlanetSide 2 is in line with that. The moment-to-moment gameplay is fun, but where it falls short is that you're not working toward anything. You're making no meaningful progression, no meaningful accomplishment. With Kingdom Hearts and Resident Evil, you're working toward beating the game. There's an end in mind, and there's meaningful progression. Granted, this is difficult to do in a persistent world like PlanetSide 2, which is why people are having all these feelings of there just being no point. The common argument is that, well, when content locking gets into the game, there's going to be a reason to fight. And I'm thinking to myself, seriously? Unless you are part of that outfit or alliance that just goes around stomping everything for half a day until the continent is locked down, you're just going to be someone who wakes up in the morning with one less continent to play on. If you're on the winning side, you're probably going to get a nice buff, some resources, and if you're on the losing side, you won't even get that. Either way, it's inconsequential. It doesn't give me any more reason to log on and play PlanetSide 2 unless I know that I'm going to be part of that group. Ultimately, I think that the crew at SOE already understands that this is a problem. It's one of the many reasons why the mission system is being developed and why there are alerts. At least that's my hope. But I also feel like it needs to go beyond that. A subscriber once messaged me, I can't find the message, I don't remember the name, so I apologize, but he said that PlanetSide 2 is essentially an MMO, and the bases are the raid bosses. This is a decent analogy, I think we can work with it. After you down a boss in an MMO, what happens, right? You divvy up the loot, you get some gold to pay for your repair bills, and you get a better understanding of the encounter. Then you gear up, you get ready to hit the next boss, or you reset the instance. Everything in PlanetSide 2 needs to be made more substantial to get this feeling. Because it is a persistent world, it needs to create a sense of accomplishment through miniature start and end points, where people will feel accomplishment and impact during and after each and every encounter. The game flow needs to be redesigned to discourage spawn camping, discourage zergs, but at the same time create even fights with smart progression toward a final climactic encounter, with rewards or otherwise loot that is scaled based on the size of the encounter and how well you actually did. A scoreboard should show up in a notification window for everyone, which tells you exactly where you stand during that fight. You know, who healed more than you, who repaired the most, who deployed and destroyed the most Sunderers, who blew up or repaired the turrets, the generators, the SCU, etc., etc. Essentially show me the heroes of the battle and give me not only an understanding of what I can do better, a better understanding of that encounter, but also give me a reason to want to do better. Then you let me repair, resupply, and send me off to the next battle. In case you're curious, I do have a lot of thoughts on how to accomplish this. I'm not going to expand on that here, but it's worth a video in itself. So to sum it all up again, fun is a very fluid concept. Everyone has fun in different ways, and thanks to the sheer amount of games in play today, we can easily move on to the next one once we get bored with the first. This goes hand in hand with the mentality of the current generation of gamers who can bounce from achievement to achievement within a game and keep themselves occupied, opposed to the older generation of gamers who didn't need these incentives, these carrots, in order to have fun. Where gameplay used to be enough to make a game successful, worthwhile, and fun for hours, days, and years on end, solid gameplay has become a requirement, alongside meaningful accomplishment, which is something some games lack. The games that lack either solid gameplay or meaningful accomplishment can bombard their games with as many new, shiny things as much as they like, but I feel they won't hold on to their community when something even shinier is released. But that's it. I hope you were able to make some sense of most of that, hopefully. And if this video has been interesting, helpful, or entertaining, please feel free to like, subscribe, tell your friends about the channel, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject as a whole, so dump as many thoughts and opinions as you can in the comments below, and hopefully we can start up a good discussion. Thanks very much, folks. We're all signing off.